name's Melissa, and my topic today will be about early classes. High school is stressful enough with raging hormones and day-to-day drama. So why do school districts find the need to add extra agony to students by starting classes as early as 8 a.m.? What we're doing right now isn't healthy or safe to the students, grades 9 through 12. My first claim, or let me go over my claims. Early class start times have negative effects on students' grades 9 through 12. I'm going to be talking to you today about why early class times jeopardize students' sleep, why early class start times are counterproductive to students' academic success, and how they threaten students' overall health. So first, students are required to wake up before their bodies are even able to function properly because they have to wake up so early. Carly Johnson, a senior at Hilton Head Island High School, was interviewed by the Island Packet, and she said, in the first 15 to 20 minutes of first block, I'm thinking, why am I not in bed? I'm not prepared to learn, and it's just too early for me. So if in the first part of her class she can't even function and doesn't want to learn, then that's wasted time and it's not being used properly for learning. Sleep researchers also say that a student needs about 9 hours of sleep a night. In a recent poll conducted by the National Sleep Foundation, about 60% of children under the age of 18 complained of being tired during the day. And according to their parents, 15% fell asleep sometime during the year. So if they're falling asleep in class and feeling tired during class, then they're obviously not learning. Also, during these grades, 9 through 12, students are about 14 to 17 to 18 years old. So they're going through puberty and changes in their body and their life, and also changes in their sleep patterns. Sleep researchers from the journal Centennial say adolescent teenagers don't usually get sleepy until about 11 p.m. and aren't ready to wake up until 9 hours later around 8 a.m. So let's say your class starts at 7 a.m. and you have to wake up at 6. That's nowhere near the time that your body physically wants to wake up. So all you're doing is a lack of sleep restrains the classroom productivity, and that time that you would think would be useful starting early is just being wasted because you're not productive at all. My second point is that early class start times are counterproductive in students' academic success. And that kind of just goes along with what I just said, is that although you may think like starting earlier, more time for learning, but physically the students cannot learn because they're not woken up yet. Based off teacher observations, students perform better in the afternoon. This isn't really like a uniform evidence, just kind of like based off what teachers think. If they have a class during the day, they can see that their students are more tired and not really participating. Rather, the same class during the afternoon, the students are more alert, tentative, and willing to participate. In a 2002 study, researchers from the University of Minnesota found and published that schools who introduced a later start time saw higher grades, less tardiness, and less dropouts with students. My last point, early start times threaten students' overall health, which surprised me. Like, your overall health is being jeopardized just from waking up a little bit too early. But lack of sleep, as everyone knows, when you wake up too early and you have tons of stuff to do, you're stressed out. So stressing out kids from from grades 9 to 12 that's horrible. They shouldn't be stressed. And Andrew Phillips, a writer in the journal Centennial, says, over time, their ability to cope and stress is compromised, leading to irritability and depression. So kids these ages, 14 to 17, 18 years old, are becoming depressed because they're tired, they're not doing well in school, and overall their grades are completely lacking. And the National Sleep Foundation also reported that schools who pushed back their start times for an hour, from like 7 a.m. to more towards the 8 a.m. hour when students biologically are able to wake up, they found tremendous benefits. Students were less likely to experience depressed moods, reduced tardiness, reduced absences, better grades, and astonishingly reduced risk of drowsy driving. If you think about it, when you're waking up in the morning and you're tired, you're driving to school and reaction times are jeopardized when you're sleepy. So Connor Nikolic wrote in the Minnesota Daily that there was a 70% drop in car crashes involving students after switching to an 8:55 a.m. start time. That's tremendous that just from switching a start time, they can lower risks of car accidents and the potential injuries of their students. In conclusion, I believe that switching from a later start time than an earlier one will be very beneficial to students grades 9 through 12 because early start times have a negative effect towards students. They jeopardize their sleep, they reduce the productivity in the classrooms, and they also jeopardize the overall health of students. Thank you.
I agree.
That's why I got so many tardies in high school.
Yeah. I got 62 in my freshman year.
62.
My mom.
I know, he's taking a long time. That means bad news.
Instead of identifying the topic by just saying, talking about early classes, I think you want to start off with that hypothetical example and then go to your topic. And I think that would make it a more effective attention device. Your proposition is stated, but it's almost like you forgot that it was going to be there, and then you had to come back to it and get it in there. So you did ultimately state it. The secondary issues, when you set them up, they're presented like they're interrogatory questions that are designed to explain something as opposed to make an inference. And I just think that you want to take out those questions about, I want to show how this is happening or why this is happening, and tell you that this happens and it causes a problem. This causes this particular problem. So make declarative sentences rather than interrogatory supporting points. I think that it'll be clear that you've got an argument as opposed to an informative speech. The signposting in the body of the speech was pretty clear. I thought you did okay on that. The information on student performance, I think, is a little shaky. It needs to be stronger. You do have a couple of pieces of data that suggest that there is a relationship here. I do think that the thing about the amount of sleep is probably the most important issue. The notion that it's this 11 to 8 a.m. cycle, that's the one piece of information that's most critical to your question about early start, and that's the one that seems to be the most conclusionary, the thinnest, that has the least amount of detail to it. I think you need a little bit more backup on that particular point. I don't think there's any dispute that people do better when they get an adequate amount of sleep. That's not where the controversy is. The question is, can they get an adequate amount of sleep without going to bed earlier? And the answer is, I don't know. I think there needs to be a little bit more information on that particular point. You had a couple, vague information about students performing better in the afternoons. That seemed to be like it was data drawn from teacher observations and inferences. The whole first point is just supported by a single student example, and I think that that's a little bit thin. I thought you were better on the third point where you talked about a decline in, increases in performance, and also, for instance, a decline in the car accidents. I'd like to see that data because that sounds pretty interesting, and I'd like to know what it was based on. But I thought that you did a good job summarizing the argument at the end of the speech, and like I said, I don't think there's any doubt that the amount of time that people sleep is important. The question is whether or not it's that particular time. That's all dependent on that one piece of information that you had that it wasn't bad, but it does feel thin, and I think there needs to be more development of that issue. All right, thank you.